If Jamaica is a real place, explain this. Man, get gift to
Hi everyone,
backside.
welcome back to my channel, Jamaica Roots TV. Hope you're all doing well today. Thank you for all the support. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. So we'll be taking a look at the situation that is going on with the part-time conductor, part-time clown, and there is some news report in the media that Digicel has now pulled ads from Zip FM. So this person was seen on Zip FM with one of the Zip hosts, and she was presenting him with a baton, well gift wrapped with bows and everything. Remember that he had a big stick in his hand when he was ordering the passengers out of the vehicle. I don't like to look at that video at all because every time I look at it, I feel so bad for the ladies, and you can just imagine what they were going through. Totally embarrassed, right? So I'm just going to read a little excerpt here from the Daily Gleaner. It says, telecommunication company Digicel Jamaica has pulled all its advertising from popular radio station Zip FM for what it calls unacceptable actions. Of course, it's a representation of what he used when the situation occurred with him, yelling at the ladies to come out of the vehicle and acting, threatening, acting in a menacing way for them to come out of the vehicle. So something that happens in Jamaica on a daily basis. I lived out there. I witnessed it, personal and close, right? It's just that this was recorded, and many other situations are now being recorded, but this, for some reason, it resonated. But this is something that occurs all the time. Women are being disrespected on the street, young girls on a daily basis. They're being called all types of names. If they're being catcalled or whistled at and they don't respond, they don't acknowledge a person, they can be physically assaulted, they can be verbally assaulted, or worse, right? Just look at the situation where the lady's coming home with her two daughters from church and they were grabbed and raped in front of the mom. The mom was made to watch. This is toxic behavior, trauma after trauma, and it's from one generation to the other, and this goes way back, believe me, 200-300 years, and it's getting worse, right? You will have a parent beating a child mercilessly, and that parent will tell you that my mom did that to me, or my father did that to me, or my uncle did that to me. And if you speak to the mom, that she will tell you that her mother did that to her. And it goes back, way back, way back. It's coming from a very far place. Sad to say, I had to break the news. So it's a very violent space, especially in the grassroots area, amongst the grassroots people. It's very toxic. They're suffering from a lot of trauma after trauma being passed down from one generation to the next. Now, if he wanted to get out the ladies out of that car, I don't think this is his responsibility anyways. He's a conductor. Why was he taking that position and taking it so forcefully and had a big stick in his hand and all of that? I can tell the ladies were so embarrassed. It's like they're trying to control themselves and everything. They can't do much about it. They just have to, not say anything. But they were totally embarrassed being treated like that in public and by a young person. He's only 23 years old, right? So he was probably just born in the late 90s. And this toxic behavior is handed down to him. He sees it every day, right? And then he, of course, replicates that behavior. So I'm here to just make sure that if it's one person I can save, I'm going to try. When you leave your home, none of us are innocent, because no matter how we look at it, slice it and dice it, at some point we may have acted out of the norm at some point, right? All of us. When you leave your home, you do not know what's going to take place. Conduct yourself in a respectful manner. Be kind to others. The situation out there is not very good. You have people being bundled into taxis like animals. You have kids being placed in other adults' laps to sit, which is very disgusting. The back seat is made for 3 persons to be seated with seat belts, and sometimes 4 and 5 is shoved into the back. I mean, the authorities are trying to clamp down on that, but they still get away with it. You have people who are so-called operating taxi drivers, and either some people are mimicking taxi drivers, or you have taxi drivers out there kidnapping women and children, right? The little girl, 12, 13 years old, she took a taxi, and within minutes she knew she was in danger. She stuck her feet out, whether it was done intentional or not. I believe it was. We don't know what happened, but I am glad her feet was hanging out, or one of her leg was hanging out, right? It alerted the citizens that something is not right here, and they followed that taxi. I am so grateful that they did. 1 million thanks. And they got a citizen citation for their act of bravery just in October Heroes Day. Well deserved. Big round of applause. She was terrified. This man was trying to abduct her, and he's still out there. He's still out there. Parents, do not allow your young children to go stand at the bus stop and take taxis by themselves. Try to arrange with a group, or try to arrange with someone you trust to take the child to the bus stop, right? Even teenagers, they're at risk, right? Human trafficking, kidnapping, essays, all of that, right? And I don't have to really spell out what essays are. You should know by now, right? It is rampant out there. On top of them trying to navigate the dangerous streets, there's so many things out there that they can fall danger to. So please remember, when you go outside, just remember to act accordingly and not to escalate a situation. Be kind to others. Watch your actions and watch your speech, because things can escalate in seconds. I don't know if you guys remember that a situation that happened a few years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago. A lady was swearing in public. She was using indecent language, allegedly, according to the police. They warned her to refrain, to stop. She continued. I don't know if she was cursing at the officer or she was cursing someone else. And would you believe that the officer took her out? I mean, people were shocked. A lot of trauma is being handed down from generation to generation. You're going to tell me that that police officer could not have arrested that lady and took her to the station and charged her for disorderly conduct and indecent language? Why did it have to go to that extreme? So they buried her child, her baby. Of course, they did a separate coffin for her and a separate coffin for her baby. It was really sad, and it really resonated with me to this day. What if? We always ask, what if? Please be careful out there. Watch what you say. Watch what you do. Look at the little kids in school right now. There are 2 of them right now faced with manslaughter / murder charges. One has pled guilty to manslaughter. That is the kid that took out the youth, the young boy, 16 years old. He was taken out for some kind of guard ring and all of that, right? Now he has pled guilty. So I'm thinking he's going to face at least 15 years behind bars. Your life will be changed. 99% of employers will not employ you with a police record, right? If they do, they don't know. And as soon as they find out, you're out the door. Do not know what you're capable of doing at the workplace. They don't trust you around others, right? So try to make sure that you're walking that chalk line. Sometimes it's so hard not to get caught up in all this mess and mayhem. What if one of those ladies had responded physically to him or tried to defend themselves or something like that, right? But of course, he had a big stick in his hand, so probably they would think twice about it. And they don't want to be caught up in situations outside, so of course they're going to ignore him, which is the best thing to do. But it could have escalated. What if there were men around and the men responded the same energy is giving off, they're going to give him back the same energy. So that's how things get, snowball. That's how things snowball and get out of control. All because of what we're saying and what we're doing. It could have been done a different way. Ladies, we are protesting and he's not supposed to be carrying passengers. Would you mind coming out of the vehicle or something like that? But when we grow up in a certain environment and we're seeing abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, assault after assault, you're conditioned to think like that, act like that, right? You don't know the softer way. You don't know the kinder way, right? If you even know it, you don't do it, right? The two just revert for a little bit. You have young people right now in their 20s and maybe 30s taking their kids to crime scenes. The kid has to see the person take their last gap. They have to see the grimy scenes. I've seen it where they have children looking on and just absorbing everything that's going on. It's one trauma after trauma after trauma, generation after generation. We can turn it around. They say that it takes 7 generations for trauma to disappear, right? But it probably has taken us much longer than that because our foreparents went through a lot of trauma and they in turn turned that trauma around on their children and it just snowballs from there. The people in the grassroots area, they get up every day and they have to fight to live, fight to survive, fight to feed themselves, fight to take care of their kids. It's so, a lot of things are done dishonestly because they want to feed themselves. They want to survive. Another thing is that the pressure that the taxi owners put on the taxi drivers and the conductors to bring in 25,000, 30,000 a day, plus you have to refuel the vehicle. It's a lot of pressure, and because of that, they act all types of ways. The people can be in a taxi and they're acting crazy on the road, running stoplights, jumping on sidewalks, overtaking carelessly and all of that, and they can't say anything. If they say something, voice their concern, they're verbally abused. They're called all types of names. They may be physically assaulted. The society is a violent one. The hospitals, the supermarkets, the grocery stores, the wholesale. Everywhere you go, there's dishonesty and there's violence around. Even someone who came on TikTok and told us that they purchased a few things at a wholesale, and the man, the owner, who happened, of course, to be of Chinese descent, dishonestly gave them back change or incorrect change. She took her receipt, she checked it up, she returned, and she told him, I'm missing X, Y, and Z. He was so surprised, right? Because he's thinking that most of them, they cannot calculate, they don't know how to read, and they abuse us this way. They're not innocent either. The way they speak to Jamaicans, they're not innocent. It's they realize that they can abuse them verbally and get away with it, so they do it, right? Another thing is, very surprised that he has reverted. He has just identified himself as when he was arrested. All of a sudden, he's a professional clown, and of course, he was a conductor, and he reverted to clown for some reason. He used that as his profession, and that to me would be probably a part-time thing, right? Society on a whole, majority of us, not all of us, they love clowns because they make us laugh. They're supposed to be jovial, friendly, kind. Of course, a lot of kids, they're around a lot of kids, and a lot of kids like to be around them as well. Now, if he doesn't apologize and do it sincerely to everyone, what will happen is that no one will call him for any business. So you have business places, you have private families, and you have events, other events, public events that would have called him for jobs. Remember, this is his brand, his business. And when you have a brand, when you have a business, you're representing the business and you're building it not just for yourself, but for your kids and their kids and so on, right? So you're looking after your family, generations to come. If you're not being humble and apologize sincerely, be remorseful, people will remember that and they will tend not to be associated with you. But if you come out and apologize, don't put these negative things out in the paper, as it will hurt you in the end, right? So I think the best thing is to apologize and do it sincerely, and of course face the penalty in court of the indecent language, the common assault, because they didn't say physical assault, it's common assault. You have to know the difference. You don't have to actually touch someone for it to be classified as assault. You use your voice, right, in a menacing way. A lot of people don't realize in Jamaica there's so many things that you can be arrested for, and yet you're given a pass. If you're in another country, you realize that you will not be given a pass. Some places can arrest you for spitting in public. People are urinating in public in Jamaica, and it's like nothing. They're cursing, they're carrying on the worst way in public, but they don't realize that you can be arrested. Indecent language, disorderly conduct, all of that, right? You can be held accountable for it. And we have to stop and make sure we're, presenting ourselves in a way that the kids can emulate, because we can see now the kids' action, the way they're carrying on, hitting teacher, fighting teachers. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. Girls coming at a male teacher 3 times her body weight and not even thinking about it. I see a male teacher flashed a little girl and she was coming at him and she was like flung a few feet over, and you can see that she was shook up. She never went back and attacked him. But they don't realize that there are consequences. Children as young as 9 and 10 can be arrested. Your parents should sit you down and let you know what your responsibilities are and what are the consequences if you get out of line, if you're not walking the chalk line. But most parents don't have the time, or they're not knowledgeable. They don't realize that you have to teach the kids to make sure you're watching what you say. Make sure you're watching what you do. Conduct yourself in a proper manner, right? you can't do these things at school, you can't do these things in the public, you are just showing up yourself. You're trying to be the bad gal or the bad boy, right? And it's not going to work out in your favor, because you're going to be penalized for your behavior. You're going to be held accountable for your behavior. There are consequences for your behavior. Children, I've seen them handcuffing kids 5 and 6 years old. What would they do to 11 and a 10-year-old? You have to know that you cannot behave a certain way, because you will end up paying a grave penalty for it. I'm just going to say one thing. For those who have to impress friends and act a certain way to impress, you're not impressing anyone with your lewd behavior. You're going to find yourself either in the cemetery or in the prison. A young girl who is in prison, I was going to bring it on my channel. She is being attacked on a daily basis in prison, and she decided that she's going to fend for herself. She ended up, of course, hurting the other girl and was given another charge, right? And it was just like one problem after the other. Being in those places is not, you're thinking outside is violent. Wait until you get inside there, because there's always someone who is trying to control you, right? So while you're on the outside, take heed and listen. And it would be a nice thing if you could come and apologize and tell the kids this is not the way you should be behaving. It's not becoming of a gentleman, and it's not becoming of a lady. We need more classes, I think, to steer the young people in a certain way. You don't have to act brash, brawling, loud, aggressive, lewd for someone to notice you, right? You don't have to act that way, because you see it around you, especially in your community, and you try to emulate some of that, looking for attention or thinking you're going to have some type of spotlight. It's not going to work out in your favor. It's a negative spotlight, and it's not a good place to be in. You have to conduct yourself in a certain manner, in a certain way, right? And otherwise, you won't live to see a certain age, or you may end up in the penal system, and that is not a good place to be. Some people don't even have a mattress to sleep on, right? And you do know the conditions in the Jamaican prisons, right? People can tell you that it's horrible. It's not a bed of roses, right? So things like spitting, punching, pulling, dragging, all these little things, urinating in public, these things are despicable, to say the least. And we should be telling the children not to do that, because we see the adults doing it and they're not making it any easier, right? So a lot of people go through trauma, especially the ones who are grown up in a rough neighborhood like Garrisons, and they basically have to do all types of things to survive. They have a rough life, right? And many, not all of them, will internalize that, because they have not, of course, they're not going to be getting any counseling or any help, and they internalize that, and then they spew that out on others. Their demeanor, the way they speak to people, the way they act. You can go and ask someone a simple question, and it's just a very, very aggressive and abusive response that is coming out. And usually it's not you haven't done anything, but they react a certain way because they remember certain things that happened to them, and this is the way they're being treated by others, so they don't know any other way. And someone sent me a message saying that some ladies went to buy crab downtown and they were held up and robbed. One of the ladies, she was like, taking her time to give the guy the money, and he sliced her hand. this is a type of environment. This is a kid that she, that could be her son, slicing her hand middle. She's home, can't do anything. And she has to feed her children. Everybody is hungry and without. And she's trying to buy crabs to sell. And they go there in the morning, the wee hours of the morning, knowing that the people are coming in to buy the crabs, and they attack them. If you interview that kid who did that, most of the time they don't have a parent, a responsible parent in the home, no dad. Mom is stressed out, maybe 5-6 other kids or more around. He's scrambling to survive, no one to show him the way out. If you are that person, we're speaking to you to get help, seek help, and try to get out of that situation where you are, and do not repeat that behavior. Otherwise, you are going to have a short life, or you're going to end up in the penal system. If you interview most people who are in prisons and jails, they will tell you how rough their life was. No mom or no dad, no this, no that. It's just the way the society is. We can do better. Like, there's a lot of poor people around and no one is looking out for them. And I'm not making excuses, but it's just a one thing after the other, and they get caught up trying to survive, trying to eat. And it's like they don't know any other way other than going to the market to lay wait these people, right? You can do better, but in their heads, I just want to feed myself. I just want to grab some money and I'll be fine. It's a toxic way of living, and they are repeating toxic behavior. So we have to know, number one, the government needs to do something about the transportation system. If people are being handled like animals, they're going to behave like animals. They're being shoved and rammed and pushed and yelled at and all of that. When you go out in the mornings, you're nicely dressed, and the way that they're treating you, it's just horrible. And then you get angry, you get aggressive. By the time you reach work, someone says something to you, you lash out at that person, not because of that person, but because of the way you were treated coming into work. People need to be treated in a respectful way, right? When I used to live in Portmore, they used to have these buses, executive buses. People would pay double and triple just to ride in comfort and away from this lewd music and this horrible aggressive behavior. People would pay double the price to ride in comfort. Jamaica government, we need more buses on the road. The taxi drivers are out of control. They're out of control. A lot of them are not abiding by any rules. And when you go into a taxi, your life is in danger as well. You don't know what's going to happen. Many years ago, I came to Jamaica. I took a taxi from Portmore and he drove through Bernard Lodge. I was going to Spanish Town to do some business. And the driver, he kept checking on me. For some reason, kept looking in his rearview mirror, looking, checking. And I felt very uncomfortable in that taxi. And as soon as I saw a little bit of a crowd, like he's approaching Spanish Town, I told him, stop, let me out. And he said, but you're not in the town yet. I said, it's okay, let me out. And I paid him, jumped out of the taxi. I've never felt so uncomfortable in my life. Why was he glancing behind every 2-3 minutes is beyond me, right? Checking on me. So every time I keep saying this, parents, you always say it's not going to be my child. My child will be safe. But you can see what's going on out there. You can see what's going on out there. You choose to do what you choose to do. Your job is to protect the children at all cost. Make sure you walk with them to the bus stop. If you're not working, arrange for someone. If you are working, arrange for someone to accompany them to the bus stop. If you can't get someone, an adult in your house or a next door neighbor or somebody that you trust, please arrange for them to meet at somebody's house, or you drop them off and they walk in a group to somewhere. It's much safer. We have to now try to get together as parents to keep the kids safe. Thank you for joining me on this video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Take care of yourself and others. Bye for now.